Okay, 5 minutes on becoming my own best friend. This is another topic that I was watching this morning by this guy, Rajiv. I won't say his last name, I'll put it in the comment. But I've never seen any of this person's videos pop up on my feed till this morning. And I watched it and I really liked his video style of recording. It kind of reminds me of what I'm trying to do, just very informal. He's in his bedroom. I've only seen one video, so maybe they're not all like this. But just very relaxed, and he's kind of just like talking about his thoughts on things. And I realized that is exactly what I'm trying to do with my own video posts. Not necessarily use it as a way to guide anybody or tell anybody what to do, just as a way to kind of sort out my own thoughts and talk about what I want to talk about, even though I'm by myself, which is interesting because a lot of what he was talking about in his video was doing this and not being afraid to, treat yourself the way that you might want a friend to treat you, or do the things that you think that you need another person to do. Let's say for me in this moment, it's talking about something that I saw that I want to discuss and I'm interested in, and I might see something like that, and maybe this morning it's like there's nobody around. Rita's not here. I don't have anybody to discuss it with, but I feel this kind of like I have my own thoughts that come into me about it, my own experience that I can relate to what's being said, and then here we go. This is a platform for me to do that and practice maybe treating my camera, treating my YouTube as a friend. And in some ways, of course, I'm just sort of like becoming my own best friend. So, you know, I'll share his YouTube in my comments, and if you want to check out the video for yourself, he talks about it better than I can, but it resonated a lot for me, and I can see now why maybe recently, and I mean like in the last 10 years, I've struggled a lot with, how I see friendships, what my expectations are from friendships, whether they're like too high expectations or too low. Just that, and relating to some other things I've heard, I realized that, growing up, and when I mean growing up, I mean from maybe being little till I was about 18 years old. My dad was in the military and we moved every 2, 3 years. I mean, we were really not in any place longer than 3 years, you know, sometimes less. And I don't remember ever really thinking about friendships, through most of that experience. I can't recall any friends that I had, up until maybe like I was 13 or 12, I'd say. I don't remember, having any friends that lasted longer than like 1 or 2 years. So now I realize that maybe, I didn't, obviously I'm not alone in this experience. There's lots of people that grew up in military families or moving around the world. Not the world, I moved around the US. But obviously I've continued moving because now I live in Taiwan. But um, I'm not alone in this experience, but sometimes it feels like it's a minority of people that have had this experience, maybe. And so it's hard for me to know if that experience allowed me to really understand how to develop deep, meaningful friendships, how to be a good friend, what a good friend actually is as well. Like, understanding who is actually my friend, who isn't. I don't think there was a lot of, maybe there wasn't the same opportunities for me to learn those things in the same way, that a lot of other people had. There's my 5 minutes. But, you know, a story that I've told a few times to certain people is how, I can remember something really pivotal that happened to me when my family moved from Alaska. I was about 12 years old. We moved from Alaska to Michigan, and I had a friend in Alaska. His name was Hans, and we were buddies. We were 12-year-old buddies. I have a ton of like memories of just like having a good time as a kind of kid. And and then when we left Alaska, I remember having this interaction with him where, I mean, he was just really sad. He was crying. He had made me this kind of like going away package of memories he had, and he gifted me something that he knew that I liked that was his. I totally remember what it was too. He had this like letter opener that looked like a sword and it had these like jewels on it. And I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And I always just like secretly like desired to have it. And he knew that, like we never talked about it. But it's amazing that he knew that and he gave that to me as we left. And it should have been really touching. And I should have, I mean, not should have, but I might have been able to have a moment, but my memory of that was being a bit confused by all the emotion involved. For me, this is just what we did. We leave, and people are temporary in your life, and that's just the way it is. It's not even a big deal, and like whatever kind of thing. And then the next thing, not the very next thing, but another big thing that happened to me directly after that was, we moved to Michigan. I started school, and I suddenly had this awareness, through listening to conversations that the other kids were having in school at this point. We're like 13. And a lot of these kids had been friends with each other since they were babies or something, like, and they would talk about it, like, oh, you remember the time when we were like 4 and you came over to my house and we had a pool party, this kind of thing. And I suddenly realized that like I didn't have any memories like that. I didn't know anybody from when I was like 5. I could barely even remember anybody at that time that I might have known when I was 5. Or, hearing them. It was the very first time I I heard somebody talk about like the house they grew up in, and realizing that this person had never moved and being a bit shocked, like, wow, you've lived in the same house your whole life. Oh my God. Like, unbelievable. I mean, honestly, I don't remember ever thinking about that before that. Like, thinking about that as an idea. And maybe that makes sense. You're little, the world is small. It's like my world is the world. The way we do things is maybe the way are. Um, and I can remember that that was the time that I started thinking more about friendships and um, friends and how things work, and being curious about it because I felt like I wasn't really sure. And of course, the moving didn't stop. I mean, even then, it's like, I switched schools like 3 different times, even from junior high to high school. So there's just this like constant, brand new people, brand new places, and trying to navigate that, and everything always feeling super temporary. And so I realize that maybe some of my personal struggles with understanding friendships, you know, thinking about, what it is that I really wish I had in terms of friendships, all of that connects in some way that's waiting for me to really get clarity on. And I wouldn't say that I do, but it is making sense, like, and this video that I mentioned in the beginning, becoming best friends with yourself. I think it's helping remind me that, not to be so, not to be so dependent on other people to fulfill the needs that I have for myself, that I somehow have kind of like, moved into a space where maybe the desire for that, I think, my story about realizing people had been friends their whole lives or lived in think maybe there was a subconscious like jealousy or, like feeling like I missed out on something important, that maybe that would have been a better way of life for me. But of course I won't know, and that isn't necessarily true. But yeah, it's kind of shed a light on things, and especially how I've navigated my life here in Taiwan, where I've lived longer than I've lived anywhere in my life. I've been in Taiwan 15 years, and I mean, the longest other place that I've lived in my life was St. Joseph Benton Harbor in Michigan. And that was because I graduated and I worked at an ad agency there, ARS Advertising. And that was like 5 years, or maybe not even, like just under 5 years, about 5 years. And so now I'm here. It's been 15 years in this city. And now I have friends that, people that I've known for 10, 11, 12, 13 years. And, it's amazing to think about how much has changed about my feelings about that and my expectations. Yeah, and so I just wanted to capture that today. That video was interesting for me because I have been thinking about this a lot. Um, and I feel like it's a growing topic of interest for a lot of people these days. Um, I mean, I feel like that's observable. There's this desire for greater connection. There's a confusion about, why that seems harder these days. And there's a lack of, I think most of us don't feel like we truly understand how to develop the deep interpersonal connections that we might desire. And, obviously there's a bazillion reasons for that that could be discussed in a bazillion other videos, but um, trying to keep it to 5 minutes, which is not going very well. It's going to be 15 minutes. All right. Well, there's my 15 minutes on. I didn't even talk about becoming my own best friend, did I? Oh well, I did talk about my brain synapses, and they're firing all over the place. So it's giving me something to think about, and I think I've expressed enough.